Welcome fantasy book nerds! Today I am sharing my review of the Worldhopper Ball. Before we get going, I want to say this video is dedicated to my very first 2 Patreon subscribers. I want to say a huge thank you to Edge Dancing Through Life and Priscelli for signing up for my Patreon and supporting me. I really appreciate you guys. Anyway, and without further ado, let's talk about getting tickets. Because I very nearly missed out on buying tickets, it was seriously so close. Dragonsteel always seems to launch things at 10 a.m. This is a small note from me. I know they probably will never hear this, but please, could you guys please start releasing stuff at 5 p.m., including like merch drops and stuff, because I had to take my lunch break at 10 a.m. at work to go and make this happen. The only day that was left 20 minutes after launching was the last day, Saturday. So those were the tickets that my husband and I got. But in hindsight, I'm really happy that it happened that way because Saturday ended up being the best day to be at the Worldhopper Ball. But now let's talk about how the event actually went down. Picture yourself at Nexus. You are maybe dressed up in cosplay, going to panels, having a great time. My group and I all went home at the end of the day and we started hearing from other people who had gone to the Worldhopper Ball the first night. And the thing that we were hearing was, make sure to make a beeline to the food and drink because you will probably not get any if you do not get in line immediately. You will probably miss some of the performance too, just because you were waiting in line. It seems that the very first day of this event, they had a huge line problem. This has been said in reviews everywhere, so I'm not going to say too much on this, except that by the time we got there on Saturday, they figured it out. It was beautiful. We were able to get shoutout several times. We were able to get all of our drink tokens turned in. Everything was good. And we really didn't have a problem with that. We had also heard that people were having a hard time seeing. The other thing that I was hearing from other people who had been to the ball before me was that this was not dinner theater. Do not expect to have a table to sit down at. From what we had been told, there was very limited seating, and that turned out to be true. But those were the reviews that we heard from day one. So my group and I started to lower our expectations a little bit and make a game plan. Also, after night 1 of the Worldhopper Ball, I finally found out that the ball was actually happening at the Salt Palace Convention Center, which was a bit of a shock for me, since I had previously thought that it would be some kind of wedding venue. No, they took a convention center with ugly, gross carpets and ugly walls and ceilings and transformed it. And I was not at all disappointed with what they did because stepping into that room for the first time was transporting. They did an excellent job. I think still in the future, it would be better if they did a different venue, but they also have to keep the price of the tickets down. You don't want to be paying too much for a ticket. I get that. They already had the space at the Salt Palace, they might as well use it. But Saturday night comes, and you could tell immediately that the entire event was a well-oiled machine. Almost every 5 minutes while we were standing in the line, they would come by with menus, with QR codes and say, hey, here, scan this so you can look at the menu and decide what you want. That was great to know what the food and drink was going to be beforehand so that we were able to make our decisions. Didn't have to stand there being like, I haven't seen this menu before. I really don't know what I want. So that really helped. But I love that they were sending out the event workers. They were checking on us. Hey, just so you know, it's about 40 minutes away. Are you okay? Everything good? Do you need anything? They were so attentive and really on top of things. And I think that's definitely because they had run it the 2 previous days and worked out all the kinks. And I'm hoping that that will be the experience next year when they put on another event like this. Hoping that they do put on another event like this, because I think I'd be really sad if they stopped. One thing that I thought was really cool is that once the lines started moving for us to go in, they had a whole experience set up to transport you to Roshar. They basically had 2 Oathgate Spren that you walk between. You go into Shadesmar and then you are transported into Roshar. It was magical. And honestly, I had this moment where I'm like, I'm probably going to make a review about this. I should be filming, but it was so beautiful. I did not want to whip out my phone. I wanted to walk through Shadesmar and just experience that and get to look around and feel transported, and it was so magical and I loved it. You can really tell that Paladin Creative put so much loving detail into curating a very Rosharan space. By the way, quick plug here, if you want to learn more about the details at the Worldhopper Ball, go to Cosmere Conversations, the podcast. It's run by Tyler and Brooke, and they interviewed Brandon, not Brandon Sanderson, I don't know his last name, but he is the head of Paladin Creative, was the head of designing this space and curating everything, and he gives a lot of really cool details in their interview with him, so I highly recommend that you go look them up and listen to that episode, because it is really cool, all the details and love and care that they put into this. But anyway, we walk into the room and there's this beautiful laid out stage. There were pillars that had the double eye of the Almighty. It was so cool. There was literally an arch with all of the heralds. The details were incredible. And the fact that you could even burn a glyph word for the bride and groom, that was so cool. Sadly, we didn't get to because they ran out of paper, but I would have liked to, but it's okay. We were there on the last night. I feel like those kinds of things are kind of to be expected. Now, when we got there, we had made a plan to beeline to the food and drink, and that's what we did. We went through it really, really quick. Didn't really have to wait very much. It was a great experience. My husband and I decided beforehand that we wanted to try out a couple different wines and not just stick to one the whole night. So he decided to get the violet wine, and I decided to get the sapphire. And the sapphire quickly became our favorite. It was so good.
It serves the cultured Vorin well to be versed in the diverse beers, mud beers, ciders, juices, and lagers of other cultures. Wine spren are quite rare, reported only in foreign nations. The cultured Vorin knows their wines and speaks confidently on the subject. Sapphire, nutty taste with hints of honey.
Made from fermented lavis grain. Depending on the infusions, this traditionally tastes more.
Something to drink. Join the revel. Just give in. Indulge. Indulge. Give in.
And that is my kind of weird segue into a cool little announcement that I get to release. A few weeks back, I made a TikTok and Instagram video about my own homemade recipe for Alethi Sapphire Wine. It's a copycat recipe from what we had at the Worldhopper Ball. I was very surprised when after posting this video, Paladin Creative reached out, said, "Hey, would you want the official recipe for Alethi Sapphire Wine?" Honestly, I kind of freaked out for a second because it was so cool that they reached out in the first place, but I am really excited to be able to share with you the official recipe for Alethi Sapphire Wine that they used at the Worldhopper Ball. The one thing that I would recommend is that here they have pineapple syrup. Now, a lot of pineapple syrup is yellow in color, and when you add that, it kind of takes away from the blue. I think at the Worldhopper Ball, they used colorless pineapple syrup. That's what makes sense to me. That's the recipe. Hope you make it at home and enjoy it. So after getting food and drink, we went and sat down and ate, and we were the lucky few who got to sit down because there really was not anywhere to sit. That's one of my critiques that I would want them to improve on next year. More seating, please. I think if everyone had been seated for the performance, it would have been so much easier to see everything. Because my husband is a lot taller than me, he was able to see it, but me at 5'6", I didn't see a whole lot. Anyway, but that brings me on to the performances. I will say the costumes were incredible, and the casting was pretty good too. There was a few people that I just did not believe in the roles. For one, Dalinar just did not strike me as Dalinar for some reason. Jasnah, Navani, and Shallan were absolutely perfect. I loved who they cast, and it was seriously like the characters really had come to life. I also really like who they casted for Kaladin. The two characters that I maybe wasn't so on board with were Adolin and Hoid. By the end of the ball, I had really warmed up to Hoid, and I thought he was really, really great, but at first it took a little bit to get used to him. He had a very, I don't know, how would you describe it? Like a fruity, umptious, like foppish almost tone to his voice. I guess I had Michael Kramer in my head. It felt like this actor was maybe overdoing it just a little bit, but overall, like I said, by the end, I had really warmed up to him, and I can't really imagine it any other way, because maybe that fruity, umptious note to his voice was exactly the way Hoid would behave around Alethi light-eyed nobles. The only character that I did not think was a very convincing casting was Adolin. Now, I know that he has mixed heritage because of Evie, but he did not look anything related to Navani, Jasnah, and Dalinar. Not at all. Not at all. It was kind of hard to really see Adolin instead of seeing an actor, because I think the whole night I saw an actor more than anything else. As the night went on, there were a few different performances. Shallan and Adolin had their first dance together as a couple. Honor Spren came out and performed, and by Honor Spren we mean aerial silk acrobats. I think that's what you would call it. That was the one performance I could see. Because they were on aerial silks, they were elevated, and so that was a great part of the performance that I was able to enjoy. We also had Bridge 4 perform, but I mostly didn't see it, but I thought the music was cool. It probably was a great performance. I wouldn't know. And the various characters made speeches throughout the night congratulating the bride and groom on their nuptials. One of the performances was a bit of a spoiler for Wind and Truth, but it was something that the entire fandom had already been theorizing for a long time. But if you want to skip that, go to the next timestamp. Chinaranach showed up, the herald, and was very much, "I want to see my daughter, Shallan," and Hoid pulls her away saying, "Go back to Braze, you had your chance, you're not ruining this day." That was cool. And of anything else, that felt the most like the experiential novella, and I really loved that detail. I missed a lot of the performances, but a tech came through and was clearing a walkway in the middle of her performance, and up walks Chinaranach, and she's standing literally right next to me when Hoid comes in and pulls her away. It was really cool. It happened right in front of me, and yeah, I was really happy about that. Now it's time to get into my biggest critique of the event, which was the music. Why was there not a single slow song for me and my husband to dance to? The music selection kind of reminded me of those Bridgerton events that you see online. They look really fun, but it's all very much orchestrated versions of pop songs. That's what this was. Until we got to the very end, and then they started playing only emo songs because of DJ Stormblessed. Did I want to hear those at this event? No, not really. I wanted to be able to dance with my husband, and I wanted to feel immersed in the world of Roshar. But that's when the entire event kind of turned into a high school prom, which, don't get me wrong, still had a good time, but that was not what we wanted for an experiential dinner theater novella. That's not what the expectation was at all. But yeah, I really hope that they don't repeat that again, and that they don't let the event turn into a high school dance. I think that brings me to my last point though, which is what I hope they do next year. Did I have a good time at this event? Yes, I did. Loved it. Thought it was great. Had a few critiques, some very minor, some a little bit more major, but it was overall a really great event. Will I be going next year? Abso-freaking-lutely. Yes, I would not miss it, because overall it was really cool getting to interact with some of my favorite characters. I want the entire venue to be done by Paladin Creative again, because you can absolutely tell that they put their heart and soul into creating a Rosharan space. And do I think they can do a good job next year? Oh yes. Oh yes, they will. To take a drab convention center room and make it look beautiful is no small feat, and I think they deserve all of the praise in the world for putting that together. But my wish list of what I hope they have in the future: sitting room everywhere, whether it's tables or just way more chairs. That would be great. We need more sitting space. 2, the music. Please, 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 please let my husband and I dance to a few slow songs. And let's please be a little bit more on theme. That would be great. Would I have liked for it to be a sit-down meal? Yes. Do I want that in the future? Yes, absolutely. But if they can't swing that without driving the prices of the tickets up, I'll take the same thing again. It was fine. The other thing that I absolutely love is that they sent us home with a commemorative goblet. It's such a cool memory because that's what they served us in at the ball. So to have a piece of that to bring home was really, really cool. And I really hope that in future years they will continue to do some commemorative something for people to take home. If you've made it this far, thank you for watching. I hope to see you on my channel again. Please make sure to hit that subscribe button to see more of my videos in the future, and if you're feeling particularly generous, checking out my Patreon, where you can get exclusive behind the scenes content as well as some of the files for the projects that I'm working on. I've got a lot of really fun goodies on there, and I hope that you check it out. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again in a future video.